It's that time of the week. It's show time. It's strategy time. We are going to talk today about the Spanish Grand Prix, fantasy lineup and strategy. We're here to answer your questions as well. For those of you that are new, we have a new format to the show. We go over drivers in salary bands based off of their average pricing, and we discuss which are overpriced, which are underpriced, how you should be thinking about your lineups going into the race. Seems to be a much more efficient way of doing it. And then at the end, we're going to tie up with each of us giving you our fresh lineup. So, in other words, if you were brand new to a league and you only had $100 million to spend, we're going to give you our hot takes on maybe how you should spend it. So, a quick recap of Monaco in terms of salary changes. Pretty lots of volatility at the last race. 11 drivers up in value, 9 drivers down in value. But what is surprising, and this may be a record for the season, I don't know off the top of my head. What do we got? 9 drivers went up or down the full amount, which is not something you normally see. So we had Lawson, Ocon, Hadjar, and Leclerc up 2 million. Isaac Hadjar, I will say, uh, he may be the most successful season starting fantasy driver ever on GridRival. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm almost 100% sure he is in the top 5. He has went up $2 million. He's went up the full amount in half of the races that he's competed in. He's only dropped one time, which was that first race of the season. So incredible year for him so far. If there was an 8-race contract and someone would have signed it, you would have done very well on Isaac Hadjar so far. Franco Colapinto up 1.8, Bortoletto up 1.7, which that's a welcome change for him. He's mostly been flat at the bottom most of the season. Lando Norris up 400K, Ollie Behrman up 400K, Sainz, Verstappen, Stroll all up 100 to 200. On the losing side, some painful drops in salary for some folks who I'm guessing most people, including us, did not expect to see on this part of the leaderboard. Gasly down 2 million, Alonso, Sonoda, Antonelli, George Russell, all down the full amount. Piastri down 800K, Hulkenberg down 500,000, Lewis Hamilton down 300K, Alex Albon down 200,000. On the constructor side, we got McLaren stayed flat, which I think for a top ranked constructor or a top ranked driver, staying flat is kind of a win. It's a lot easier to go down in value if you're at the top than it is to go up, even a small increment. VCarb, the winner of last weekend, up 2.7 million. Haas up 1, Ferrari 900K, Kick Sauber 800K. On the losing side, Mercedes team struggled in qualifying, as we know. Down 2.5 million. Mercedes was. Aston Martin 1.3, Alpine 1.2 down. Williams and Red Bull both down 300 and 200K respectively. So lots to talk about. There's a lot of opportunity on the board. Anytime you see 5 drivers dropping $2 million, there's opportunity to be had, and we will talk about that. Let's get into the salary bands for today's show. At the top of the list, we got 3 drivers: Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, priced between 28.6 and 29.8 million. This is a close group of choices we got to make. And Ryan has named each of these tiers going forward, a new addition to the show. Ryan, what did you call this tier this week?
So I think this is the only boring tier name I have this week. This is just the Nike tier. Just do it. Like, one of these 3 will win the race. Pick one of them. Good luck figuring it out. But I would say you should probably have one of these guys on your team because they are most likely to come home with P1.
Piastri looks attractive going down 800K. I think if I was to look at his 8-race fantasy average, which I will do right now as I'm talking, he's probably beating Lando still, right?
On his 8-race average?
165. He is. He's beating him by 1 point. So I feel like Piastri compared to Lando, to me, is a sale, as much as there can be a sale at the top of the grid. And maybe sale's even too strong of a word. I don't know. William, you're muted.
Is he?
Yes, I muted myself. So just to lift the veil, I had sneezed, and I didn't want you all to see and hear me sneezing. That doesn't make a good show. So I muted, I turned my video off, and then I only pressed one of those buttons to turn it back on. But anyway, yeah, so Piastri, the difference maker there is that he had that bad race at Australia where he did a little bit of off-roading. And so Piastri, I believe, still leads the points, just barely. And yet in fantasy, he's worth a little bit less just because of that one bad race. So yeah, I like either of these drivers. Piastri seems to have the slight edge based on second practice, which is usually the more representative one, but hard to go wrong either way.
Agreed. I think I probably lean Piastri over Norris just very slightly, and getting an extra $1 million discount puts it over the top for me. So I'd go Piastri over Norris, but I wouldn't fault anyone going the other way.
Salary band 2, 4 drivers. We got Charles Leclerc, 26 million. George Russell, 24.8, $2 million drop. Lewis Hamilton, 23.9. Alex Albon, 20.2. Any hot takes here? George at 24.8 doesn't strike me as like a massive sale, but it's just hard for me to ignore anybody that drops that much.
Yeah, I was going to say quickly, this is the Russian roulette tier.
Oh, yeah.
It's like probably 2 of these guys are going to perform better than you think, 2 worse than you think, and they're all fairly expensive. So there's a fairly high risk associated with whatever reward. So Russian roulette.
I like that.
Yeah. I think we've said it in the last stream, just cautionary tale of like, if you're going for points, if you have Albon, doesn't necessarily mean you need to drop Albon, but if you're still if you just lost a lot of money, or you're still trying to raise to compete against the person ahead of you, Albon's probably not the pick out of this tier. Definitely near the ceiling in price. Still bullish on the amount of points to value that he could create. Hasn't had good practice sessions so far. So, it could even be on my would drop list, like just based on practice sessions so far. But very tempted. That's my cautionary tale in the Russian roulette is Albon. And yeah, I'm staying away from Ferrari this week. I just am. I need to see something more from Ferrari. I need to see Lewis Hamilton happy.
Lewis Hamilton, 3rd place last year in Spain, 3rd place in FP1, FP2 11th. So Michael
Worth
avoiding
noting, he
Ferrari.
was driving a different car last year.
He was very much.
He just seems so like anytime he's wearing the Ferrari gear, he just seems so sad. And then he does like his like promotions like with other things, and he just seems so happy. He just seems sad when he's in a Ferrari suit, which is I need more confidence to sign Ferrari right now. Like I'd rather gamble on Mercedes. Russell's been Mr. Consistency this season. He's had great results. Antonelli is at unfairly discounted right now. But yeah, just am I alone on this?
Mercedes has struggled recently. If their practice pace today is real, then I'm very interested in having Russell. I'm probably next most interested in Leclerc. I need to see Albon. I need to see Hamilton have a few good races before I can really get behind him at Ferrari. I'm not interested in Albon this week. I'm anti-interested in Albon. Williams did not look good today. I'm not liking him or Sainz this week. I'd probably even drop them if I have them.
Yeah, I think Albon's probably the top of the drop list for me, just because he's probably at a ceiling in price anyway. He's obviously put together an incredible season. Don't really want him here, not at that price point. And he looked pretty rough in the first 2 sessions. Worth noting, I think you can throw out, I know Russell was 11th in P1 or FP1. Mercedes, I know Russell for sure. I believe Antonelli as well. They didn't do any soft runs in FP1. So that kind of skews that. And we obviously saw some serious pace out of Russell in FP2. So I'm more willing to look at that FP2 and take a chance on Russell. I still think Leclerc has some value. He's a little pricey, but I think he's still fine. I wouldn't drop him. Hamilton, I've been on record saying Hamilton is washed up and should retire. So I don't know if I can really say something nice about him, but I do think Hamilton is a decent add this week at price.
There we go. I think we called Albon at his plateau 1 or 2 events ago.
Yeah.
Antonelli, or sorry, next tier 3. We got 5 drivers. Kimi Antonelli 17.8, Isaac Hadjar 17.1, Carlos Sainz 16.8, Esteban Ocon 14.1, Yuki Tsunoda 13.7. Ryan, hit us.
This one's a little weird. This is the Domino's employee smoked a bunch of weed tier. This is like you open up the pizza you ordered, and some of the slices are massive, some are tiny. And I think that kind of represents this tier. You've got a couple drivers who I think are really great options in the talent driver tier, and a couple that I would never touch. So you want to go after the really big slices of pizza in this one, which I think we'll get to here in a second.
So you got some wild, I think of all the tiers we have for sure, 2 drivers in this tier went up 2 million last race. 2 drivers went down 2 million. Sainz basically stayed flat. He was up 200K. So I'm assuming that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, but also like I think as a GridRival team, we need to study how Ocon is even in this tier still at 14.1 million and how he's not lower. I don't know how he's remaining in this tier. I am steering very clear of Haas right now. So yeah, I'm not bullish on Haas at all. But Kimi Antonelli 17.8 down 2 million.
I feel like Antonelli and Tsunoda are really hard to ignore in this tier. I mean, again, 2 million Tsunoda at 13.7.
Yeah, but here's where I always talk about league adoption stats, right? So if in your league, open up the driver profile, look at the league adoption stats of Antonelli. I'm going to guess lots of players who listen to the show, but also don't listen to the show, are just going to take him because he's the highest priced talent driver and he's in good equipment. So if your league adoption stat is like 60, 70%, you might have to take Antonelli just to push the points across the board to keep your position. But if you spot something else, that's where you can get the points that everyone will get that Antonelli won't get. So that's when I think you play someone like a Hadjar in this position. I'm not in on Yuki. I think it's Hadjar or Antonelli.
Yeah, for me, Antonelli and Hadjar were the big slices of pizza, and the rest of them are the bad ones.
Yeah.
They are, I think, a cut above the rest. Hadjar looks awesome. He looked good in both practice sessions. Antonelli looked really good in that second session, and he's 17.8. Like, it's really hard to go against Mercedes in talent driver territory. And one further point on that is if you do like him and only like him as a talent driver, 1 race contract. Because if he does do what you think he's going to do, he will be out of range next week. So, yeah.
Here's a fun debate. Tsunoda is doing okay at Red Bull. Is Hadjar doing so good at VCarb that we could see a swap by the end of the season?
Would Hadjar turn that down? I don't think anybody wants to be in that car.
They're a one-car team.
They are.
No matter who the second driver is, they're a one-car team. Even if you're the favorite child at Red Bull, which honestly I think Hadjar tends to be. But you know what, though? They pulled Max onto the main team pretty quick back in the day. Could we see them do that again? I don't know if they want to change drivers twice in one season. I think Hadjar is actually getting near the ceiling. I think VCarb's a lot like where Williams is, where they're fighting for points every week.
My hesitation with Hadjar right now is just purely statistical likelihood of 8 races in a row of increasing in value, 4 at the full amount, and the ones that weren't at the full amount were like 1.4, 900,000. Like
he's ninth in value right now.
Yeah.
How much higher can he go in the equipment that he's driving? And for that matter, Lawson's starting to put it together, his teammate. So you're not going to have as many teammate points. Lawson might be the better bargain. I know he's in another tier. If you're looking at that team, on this tier, I like Antonelli the best. Again, probably for a 1-race contract.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably Hadjar if we're looking at points. Tsunoda if we want to gamble. Sainz I'm not interested in. Like I said before, I'm not a fan of Williams. Ocon's practice looked terrible, but Haas always seems to find something in qualifying. So it might be another case of a deceptive practice time. And the other thing I'll point out as we talk about contract lengths, race number 5, if you sign a 5-race deal, race number 5 is Belgium, which is a sprint this year.
Mm,
So
yeah,
something else
interesting.
to keep in mind.
I feel like Yuki belongs in the Russian roulette tier, not based off of his price.
Yeah, more based on the performance. Like I would love to see him put it together. I just haven't seen any sign of that happening yet. Like this is a car that should be in the points every single race.
Yeah,
And
points
it's
should
not.
be like the bottom, like that should be like the lowest expectation, but it kind of looks like, you're looking for a P8, P9 as a decent Yuki showing, but it
You
should
can't be losing to Williams.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe this week they won't because the Williams looks like the worst it's looked all season.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm on 15th FP2. You had Signs 14th. Are any final comments on the pizza slice pot smoking Domino's tier? Whatever it's called. No thoughts. Moving on. Tier 4, 4 drivers. Priced. Ooh, this is a tight group. Priced 11.3 to 11.8 million. Alonso at 11.8, Liam Lawson 11.6, Ollie Behrman 11.3, Pierre Gasly 11.3. Also, Ryan, what are we calling this tier this week?
This is the Tinder date tier.
Nice.
You're looking at, you look at these practice numbers look really good. It's like the pictures online look really good, but you're going to meet up with one of these drivers and you don't really know what you're going to get. Because it's been a rough track record this season, just like I'm sure most Tinder dates are. But it's hard to deny. Like the pictures look good, the FP number, the free practice numbers look good. But you're willing to take a chance on it. We'll see.
Gasly at 11.3 down 2 million seems attractive. 10th in FP1, 8th in FP2, finished last year in 9th.
I got burned loving Gasly a couple weeks ago, notably. But I think I'm back on the Gasly train at this price. He's looked pretty good. I just feel like he's due for a big performance. I have said this a few times and it's not worked. So take everything I say with a grain of salt on Pierre Gasly. I might just have a blind spot here, but I like him again this weekend. So we'll see how that. Well, we'll probably be sitting here on our next show, and I'll be like, "Well, oops, I did it again." So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, you got. For me, it's you have Lawson, Alonso, Gasly. I'm not touching Behrman. I'm not touching Haas. What I would say with the Spanish GP, not as tightly matched to Monaco in terms of like importance of quality position, but it is pretty close in needing quality position. You want someone who's going to make it to the top of Q2 or even make it into Q3 from this tier. So on like one lap pace, I like Gasly and Alonso more than I like Lawson. But I like Lawson's price. They're all, I mean, it's all for me. Like I have no problem rostering any one of these three if I'm trying to just fit my lineup with a couple 100K difference. Like if I'm 200K short, I have no problem swapping out from any of those three drivers right now. But for me,
which of these three would you go long on?
I wouldn't go long on any of them.
None of them.
No.
I think William or Ryan, would you go long on any of these?
Yeah, I like Lawson. I think Lawson is catching up to Hadjar. I think there's some room to grow. I have less faith in Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso to continue growth.
Mm-hmm.
They had a good Monaco until the engine went. Practice looked okay today, at least on the Alonso side of that garage. Gasly, I'm less sold on. I hope this time he realizes that the left pedal makes it go slower, and we don't have a repeat of Monaco. Like otherwise, like Gasly could have had a good result. The fun thing about Gasly, though, Alpine is one of those one-car teams. Like his teammate is usually just going to demolish a car every week, and so there's some room to gain some points on Gasly there. But yeah, Lawson is the one I'm most comfortable going along on. Lawson. I have less faith in the other guys. I'm not touching Haas. I'm just not.
Yeah, Lawson is the only guy I think that you go long on here. Just kind of what Williams said. that team has shown that the car is decent. Look at where Hadjar's priced right now. Lawson should theoretically catch up to him. He seems to be looking a lot more comfortable. He looked good at Monaco. He's looked good at the free practice sessions. And like there should be a ton of room for his value to grow, assuming he's putting together these performances. Alonso, I do think will be strong this weekend, but it's flash in the pan type of stuff. I would never go long on an Aston Martin driver.
Anrox says Gasly is a catfish.
And going back to the Tinder analogy.
Yeah.
No love for
Yeah,
no love for Gasly.
Yeah, maybe you'll show up and pure Gasly will look nothing like the pictures you saw on your phone.
He'll look more like I don't know what driver I want to put down. I don't want to walk into that, but
you
like
show up and it's Colapinto
like.
instead.
Yeah,
You show up expecting the good Alpine and you get Colapinto, who I think was directed to just not wreck anything in practice because he drives so slow in every practice session. It's ridiculous. He's getting like he makes Bortoletto look like Verstappen. Because it's ridiculous. What is Colapinto doing?
Like he's going to be the second coming of Delatraz or Rossett or one of those other guys from back in the day.
We ready for the final tier and then get into our lineups. We're making good time today. Final tier, we got a spread of between 9.2 and 5.7 and 9.2 million. Nico Hülkenberg at the top, 9.2. Colapinto, 8.6. Also at 8.6, one of the best underrated drivers in all of Formula One, Lance Stroll. And then you have Gabriel Bortoletto at 5.7 million at the bottom. Ryan.
This is the Mick Jagger tier.
Ooh.
They famously have a song, "You Can't Always Get What You Want." Nobody wants any of these drivers, but you get what you need, and they're cheap, and you might need them to fill a spot. And also, a Rolling Stone downhill probably has more pace than these cars and these drivers.
Strong words. Strong words from Ryan. Bortoletto up 1.7 million. Colapinto up 1.8 million. Some stats from the weekend so far. You have Hülkenberg 14th and 12th in FP1 and 2. Colapinto 20th and 20th. Solid. Lance Stroll 12th place in FP1. 16th in FP2. 14th place last year in Spain. Bortoletto 16th and 17th. Who are you avoiding of this group? And you can't say everybody. Relatively of these four, who are we avoiding?
So for continued fans of the show, I always pitch the Bortoletto strategy of points to value. As long as there's no DNF, there's good points to value, even if there's a little bit positive or negative gain. After Bortoletto has gone up 1.7, Bortoletto is a do not sign. He could lose by just finishing even 18th. He could lose money. It's not good to sign Bortoletto right now. I would not recommend it. Out of this tier, for me, it's Hülkenberg. I never really ride this roller coaster. I don't get on it. If I don't get on it, I never have to get off of it. So I don't really ride this roller coaster. So for me, Hülkenberg is the most qualified driver in this tier, even though he's in horrible equipment. He just has the highest chance, in my opinion, of putting together a complete weekend between quali and race and finishing the race. But still, Hülkenberg at 9.2 in a Sauber is tough to swallow. Like, these guys have gotten expensive. Maybe he's a little bit cheaper now. He went down 500K, but I'm going Hülkenberg. I'm staying away from Bortoletto. I never get on the roller coaster.
What?
I'm very afraid of Argentinian Twitter, so I just don't talk about Colapinto. I'll
Yeah,
let you guys do that.
Safe play.
I say Hülkenberg if you have the money, Bortoletto if you don't.
Under what circumstances would you add Lawrence Stroll's son to your lineup?
I have a pro Lance Stroll
if I don't like
take.
having points. Yeah. So the thing is,
value?
these guys are not. Stroll theoretically has a faster car, but he has a hard time driving it fast sometimes and keeping it in one piece. And you have to do both of those things. So the thing is with Colapinto, Bortoletto, definitely a bit overpriced, but they're still at the bottom anyway. That's the consequence of Monaco being so tight that you can't even pass a Sauber.
Yeah, unfortunately, Stroll, I think, is the answer to this question for me, which is who would you take? And it is kind of process of elimination. I think Hulkenberg probably is in line for the best finish of these four, but I can't pay that much for someone in that car. Bortoletto, too much of a salary, jump him out. Colapinto, just I want no part of that. He's so frustrating. I think it's Lance Stroll. Maybe like Alonso looked decent. Maybe that car has something this weekend. And I don't know. I guess you can say Lance Stroll has experience, not good experience, but it's better than nothing. I guess I don't know. Find anything you can grasp onto to rationalize signing Stroll if you have to, but I think he's the best of this.
He does have a
Dumpster
solid
fire tier.
inheritance.
Yeah.
I would much rather sign Aston Martin as a team right now than I would sign Stroll. So like I would sign Alonso Aston for sure as a potential lineup, depending on my budget constraints. But I if Stroll's going to perform, I'd rather get those points from the constructor than to risk it on rostering Stroll. That would be my strategy tip.
Any final thoughts on our tiers? Cool. Let's get into our lineups. Does anyone want to go first?
Constructors.
Someone constructors. Oh, we got that's right. We got to go constructors.
exist
Do
too.
you ban the constructors?
I put them into
We did.
tiers, but I have
There's
not
two
come up
tiers.
with fun names for them. There's four.
Where? Oh, I must not be.
McLaren, they're on a tier of their own.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
McLaren gets its own tier, and I think everyone would agree with that and can understand why they are so far above the rest of the field. But like one of the few two-car teams we have, both of those two probably end on the podium and are both threats to win the race. They're not going to go up in value because they're at 30 already, but they're a pure points play, and I think they're very clearly just way above everybody else.
Let's see. Tier 2 constructors: Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, 24.3 to 20.8 million. Mercedes dropped 2.5. Ferrari up 0.9. Ryan, what are we calling this? Do you have names?
I didn't name the constructors. I
Okay.
used all my creative energy on the driver tiers.
Based off of I mean, to me, Mercedes dropping 2.5, 20.8 seems of these three like the choice. I don't know if anybody disagrees with that. I'm looking at Mercedes 143 8 race average, and Ferrari and Red Bull are at 136. So, I mean, they're the clear winner based off of statistical the last 8 races.
If you believe in the practice times that Mercedes had today, then definitely Mercedes. If you think that they're going to show up on race day and it's going to be like the last few weeks, then definitely not Mercedes. If not Mercedes, then probably Red Bull better than Ferrari by a little bit. Like both of them are one car teams, Ferrari a little less so. But Red Bull can at least win you a race sometimes, and Ferrari doesn't look like they're going to be winning any races.
I don't think Mercedes has ever been this cheap before.
It's been a minute,
Yeah, and
if ever.
yeah, and the team is solid in terms of the driver quality. So I'm actually very bullish on I would rather roster Mercedes right now in place of a more expensive driver, right? Like do you want Albon or do you want Mercedes? Like they're very similarly priced right now in a lineup. I would go Mercedes over taking Albon, right? Do I want Antonelli talent driver over Mercedes? Probably. But if that's your position, I think Mercedes is the clear winner from this tier.
I agree with everything Mike said.
Yeah.
Next tier is only two constructors. We got Williams and VCarb. Williams 19.7 million, VCarb 16.2. Williams has 128.8 race average, VCarb 111. VCarb up 2.7 million. Thoughts?
It's a tough one.
Racing
Yeah,
Bull is
yeah.
way better than Williams. Williams did not look good in practice, and I think Williams is a bit closer to the ceiling. These are the two teams that are fighting for the last point spots most weeks. I think Racing Bulls is clearly the better way to go this particular week than Williams.
It, I think Williams as a constructor is worth a drop if you have them.
Yeah.
I think it's that situation.
Interesting.
Like
Somebody said that in the chat. They said I signed Williams to a max deal last race. Now no way I dropped them now.
you might consider. So here's how I would look at it. Wait till we don't know what program they're running for practice, right? Even though it didn't look good. If FP3 the programs look competitive against the field and they're putting up good numbers, that I would consider keeping Williams as a team. But keep in mind, constructors can gain or lose 3 million in contract value. That's a lot of risk. It is a lot of risk to be carrying right now to lose 2.3 million potentially on a poor Williams result. And then guess what? Williams is on a little bit of a sale, and 2 out of the next 3 tracks are like really great tracks. You have or really great races, I should say. You have Canada and Silverstone in the next 3. Austria's in the middle.
I think so.
Yeah, like that's when I would want to considering rostering Williams is favoring a good high speed track. So
Austria, then Silverstone.
Yeah. All right, yeah. So then that would be where I want Williams a little bit more right now. But yeah, if you have V-Carb, I'm not dropping V-Carb based off what I've seen so far.
I mean, Williams is I think at price, the last constructor I would have on my team right now.
Yeah.
I would like, as much as I hate like Haas and Aston Martin, I would rather have Haas and Aston Martin, Jesus, rather than Williams at 19.7. They are the last place I would go when looking to sign a constructor. Unless, I don't know, we'll see. FP3 could change everything, but at this point, Williams would never find their way onto my team.
Last tier for constructors: Haas, Aston Martin, Alpine, Kick, Sauber. Spread of 8 million to 12.8 million. What are we doing here? Avoiding? I mean, Alpine, I feel like Alpine, of these 4, I would take a flyer on.
I'm not taking a flyer on Alpine. If I'm taking a flyer, I'm taking a flyer on Aston.
Lawrence Stroll's team?
Yeah, but that's what I said before. Like, I would rather take Aston than roster Stroll, because if Stroll does do well, I do well with that. If Stroll just strolls it up and Alonso does well, I think you get a better result from Aston than you do the other options in this tier. And like, let me refresh my memory on Kick went up 800K. They're 8 million. I love signing Kick for points to value, just hoping that they, Hulk shows up and Bortoletto finishes the race. But I'd rather take a little bit more of a gamble on Aston right now. You have to ask yourself: will Colapinto outscore Stroll? I think Alonso and Gasly are a toss-up. So that's how I'd be looking at it. And I'll put Lance Stroll over Colapinto. So that's why I'm going Aston over Alpine.
You are paying $3 million more for that, though.
You are, but
it's not insignificant.
It's not insignificant, but that's where my head's at right now.
Let's also think about contract lengths, and let's also think about that we have basically a street course coming up after Spain.
Let's move to some Q&A, and then we'll come back to our lineups here in a minute.
There was a fun one that I think would engage the chat.
Hold on, let's go find out while I get this one. There's no name on this, but it says, do I drop Leclerc for 780 grand and swap him for Norris?
Yeah. I would say that's not a bad play. That might be worth the fee.
Lots of other things to consider, but generally speaking, I would agree. ZB can't wait for the group names from Ryan this episode. There you go, Ryan.
Hell yeah. I'm glad people are enjoying the tiers. I will maybe try and come up with constructors for next week, but it takes a lot of brain power to come up with these ones for the drivers.
Did you find it, Michael?
Yeah. Abhinath. is there a plan to update headshots on drivers? Like Hamilton is still in a Merc outfit, signs in Ferrari, and so on. It's not a big
Yes, I
issue,
saw that.
just a little annoying. Everyone in the chat, guess how much it costs to get licensed images to use in an app of F1 drivers? I want to see all of your guesses, and then we will respond with why they're still in their old suits.
I do have an idea on that front because we do see Mark Zuckerberg in our chat here constantly. Maybe
Yeah,
if he wants to
he's-
write us a check, we could afford to change up all of the driver headshots. So Mark, yeah, go ahead and shoot us a line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's see.
Believe me, I asked that same question before the start of the season. Do we want to do anything with these pictures? And yeah.
It should be known the only headshots of these drivers are on our app and the F1 Fantasy app. No other app is using F1 drivers headshots for a reason.
Jack Flannel, how do you tell what a place a driver needs to improve in value? I'm assuming you're asking what position a driver needs to finish in to go up or down in value. If that is the case, you can click the gear icon in the top right hand corner of your league and then go to the scoring page. And then you will see something called salaries, where we spell out exactly in both math, tables, and examples of how our salary fluctuation model works. Try finding that on the Fantasy F1 official game. They won't tell you, but we got it. And you can also find it on support.gridrival.com if you want to look at it on a desktop view. Okay, any others? Such a good intro. Thanks. We made that ourselves. We tried to make it cheesy, so we're glad that you like it. By the way, I've seen a lot of questions of individual specific lineup help, and if the folks asking those is the first time back to the show, we had to move away from that because it was taking up way too much time, and there's more and more people joining and following the show. We just need a more efficient format. So we've seen some things, specific questions that we can try and get to, like dropping. What was it? I don't know who's dropping someone to sign, or dropping Leclerc to sign Norris. Those are things that we can still try and get into. Let's see. Any other good ones? If not, we will get into our lineups.
When is William going to be in the ads?
Yeah. I don't know, man. William, you want to be in some of our ads on Facebook?
Let's negotiate that. We got to negotiate that. You have my name, image, and likeness rights. There's a high premium for that.
10K
So
for a headshot.
Rival
Williams
and
headshot.
F1 headshot.
I like it. Has anybody submitted ideas of what they think headshots cost?
We have a winner, I think.
Oh yeah, Floor Killer got it. 10K.
I'm slightly disappointed that nobody said $1.
Yeah.
$1, Bob.
It's more than that.
Well, 10K was the floor, right? And then it was more than that for like the lifestyle images and all the other things.
I'm just gonna leave it with it was more than that.
Yeah, but it's not.
There is a question I do like from ZB. Is Kimmy's value a no-brainer to sign on a 4 to 5 race contract, or will that be a detractor when he comes talent ineligible? I think you could justify going long on him because I would say the last few shows he was in that range, and there were times we were looking to sign him. I'd probably lean towards keeping my flexibility open. I think right now I'd sign into one race, try and hope he does well, get all the points. He's talent ineligible, kind of leave him alone for a bit and see what happens. But yeah, I actually can see it both ways.
I forget who it was, but I saw somebody making the claim that Antonelli has struggled with the extreme soft tires, which we are going to see at Canada, which is the next race. Yeah, Antonelli hasn't quite caught up to his teammate yet in terms of pace. Like ideally, he'd be consistently past Williams and Racing Bulls every race, and we're not quite there yet. Mm-hmm. If we think that's where he's heading, though, sign him up.
Carl, what about taking drop fees for Racing Bulls to go triple McLaren? Going triple always has high risk, but with McLaren, like, it's probably a pretty safe bet. I just would wonder, the question I would be asking is, where are you at in your league? Where are you at in the season as far as needing to prioritize value over points?
He's got to have a huge budget if he's going
that's
for
sure.
McLaren.
That's the question. Like, what's the rest of your budget look like? Like, if we're going to be stuck running like triple salvers as well, this is probably not a good move.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun though. I kind of want to know how that lineup does. That's a fun exercise. If you just go triple McLaren, and then Bortoletto, Colapinto, Stroll.
I'm gonna do the math on that after this call because I am interested. But like the top performing teams in the game, like call it around Coda, the USGP, they'll run a triple McLaren setup because they have 130, 140 million in the bank, and so they run all three for maximum pointage because they don't care about losing value or it's just all about points. That's when I would do that. And there was another question in there.
Really
Okay.
quick on that lineup. I actually think without Talent Driver, that would be an okay strategy. But with Talent Driver in play, you're going to be making someone who's terrible your Talent Driver, and you're going to miss out on a lot of points. So, but I will say, if there was a league with no Talent Drive eligibility, that would be an interesting decision. But go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, someone said, what is a good rule of thumb when you think you should drop a driver or constructor? So, good reminder: the drop fee is 3% of the current contract value. It's usually always cheaper to pay the drop fee than to take the loss that you're expecting to take. So, if Leclerc's drop fee is 800K, but your fear is that he's going to lose over $1 million, which is easy to do, then pay the drop. That, to me, that's like the no-brainer. There's other like ways you want to do it, right? You want to shuffle your lineup to have just a higher points potential, higher value potential. Like, but for me, it's like I pay drop fees all the time for like loss prevention, where I'm like, I think this driver's going to drop way more than what the drop fee is. It's cheaper for me to pay the parking ticket than to pay for parking. I'm paying the
Do you
parking
want
ticket.
to, on the topic of drop fees, do you want to drop any potential upcoming news about drop fees?
You going to make me do it?
You don't have to.
Okay. All right. We're all friends here. I'm not gonna say exactly when, but in the very near future, we are rolling out full game customization for the league's games for all three sports. You will be able to set minimum maximum contract lengths, turn off the one race lockout rule, turn off the salary floor rule, and a few more other things. So full game customization is coming mid-season. So
I would say I would add the caveat V1.
it's not.
Lots-
It's a lot. There's a lot. There's a
No, there's a
lot.
lot.
Not quite full everything. Like, we're not going to let you decide your own point table. We're not going to let you decide your own salary table, but
Not yet.
there are a lot. Yeah, not yet. That's why it's
Yeah.
only V1. But
Yeah.
there's
And
there's gonna be a lot of fun controls.
on the drop fees, I came up with 3 options. So you could turn the drop fees off. You could turn on a thing we came up with called dynamic drop fees, which the longer you sign a contract, the less the drop fee is for the more races completed, and then keeping it the way it is. So there'll be 3 options for drop fees when this goes out.
Somebody asking why mid-season. Well, this is something that your league will be able to either use or not use.
Yeah.
If your league decides you want to keep it as is, that's totally cool. The large public leagues, we're going to keep them just like they are now.
Yeah.
So Mike's to Mike's point, this will be an administrative control. So the admin of the league will be able to modify these things, and there will be implications. For example, if your league and the players inside of the league want to participate in the global leaderboard, they will not be able to modify any of the game's rules. Once you modify them, you won't show up on the global leaderboard any longer. So
you'll still get a global leaderboard rank, but you won't be shown publicly. So like the global leaderboard is for people playing GridRival Classic. That's what that's for. We have things coming for that in the future. Don't worry about it. But what's really fun about this is as we get to the midpoint of the season, start a new league with new rules. That's the whole point of rolling this out mid-season. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a GridRival hardcore mode public league, one race contracts with the one race lockout rule. So everyone has to set a new lineup every single week with the one race lockout rule.
That's intense. I like
so
that.
like we're gonna have fun with this. Like that's set a new league and then mess with these settings. Don't mess with these settings in your current leagues. Like start a new league.
Someone asked, like, will you be able to start new leagues? Yeah, you can start new leagues at any time. You could start a new league right now if you wanted to.
Yeah. So there will be, once these go live, there will also be in the for each sport a GridRival hardcore mode, which I'm doing, which is one race contract maximums, one race lockout rules, and all the rest of the GridRival classic rules, because that makes the game harder and more fun.
You should make like a long shots league too, where everyone has to be a 5-race contract. Well, then you just have no. If you started that, that wouldn't work.
No,
I
no.
retract that
A
statement.
set and forget league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want more app traffic, not less.
Yeah. Also turning off the team value floor. So if you lose more than, if your team value goes below 100 million, you don't get the credit to come back up. That's
I like
also a
that.
rule in the GridRival hardcore mode. So
We're gonna have to build a feature where your team just enters liquidation at some point.
yeah.
The repo men just show up at your factory and take equipment away.
Yeah. 2 questions from the same people: Antonelli or Hadjar for talent driver?
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Antonelli.
Antonelli definitely has the higher upside. Like, we know what Hadjar's capable of, about 8th or 9th. Like, Antonelli could get you about 5th place on a good day.
I like it. I think we're got most of the questions answered. Ooh, I have Anrock. She's got a picks game question. I have George Russell worse than 5th and Alonso better than 11th race position in GridRival. Am I cooked or cooking?
Guess we'll find out.
Yeah,
Good luck.
I don't
Good
know
value
that,
on Alonso.
Yeah, I don't know that we can give picks advice on the show.
Don't know if you want my picks advice.
Yeah, you definitely don't want mine based off of my record. Let's see. How many races would you sign Alonso for if you signed him?
One.
Willie. 1. Really?
YOLO it.
I don't like 1.
I don't want
Alonso?
Alonso on Canada. I don't.
With Alonso, give me about 3. We can see if Aston's for real. If they unloaded Canada and they're not looking good, it's a cheap drop. But if Aston really is on the way up, or if at least Alonso is on the way up, I want to be in on that. I want to be in on the ground floor and ride it to the moon. But again, if they're not looking good, 2 weeks from now in Canada, we cut them. It's cheap, and it's fine.
From Willie, good general strategy question. What is a good rule of thumb for when you should drop a driver or constructor?
We just did that.
Oh, you did? Okay, where have I been?
I don't know.
Looking for questions, I guess. Scouring the board, the poorly designed YouTube chat board. Okay.
I'd have to do I still haven't done my Canada work yet, but I do remember Alonso was, what did he do? He qualified 2nd, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? I don't know what he's done since then, but I know he had one good showing in Canada. Might be more.
And Rocks, bring back 200 contestant daily fantasy. It might come back someday.
Bring at least 200 of your friends.
Yeah. That I think maybe once we have quite a few more players of our paid products, that'll come back. Need a rule to permanently ban any teams that don't set a lineup. Interesting. Mike, are you gone?
No,
blurry? Oh,
no. I turned off my camera. It isn't my camera's fault. I'm getting a error from Riverside, our recording software. Yeah, it's saying
something went wrong. You're no longer being recorded.
Yeah, something's going on with Riverside for me.
Ask Mike GP to refresh, then rejoin from a regular browser, not incognito.
I'm not in incognito, and I'm using Google Chrome.
I think that was a joke.
No,
I would hope our CTO can figure out technical problems.
Yeah, but he's gone, and might be time to talk about a promotion. Like, we're negotiating my NIL rights.
That's
Maybe
right.
we just evaluate my broader role in the company. I want to talk lineups.
Yeah, we can talk lineups. I would say I'd say the best tech issue we ever had on this show was when William and I had to do it alone, and we had no power whatsoever to end the stream, and we got stuck for like 15 minutes with nothing to.
That's right. that was kind of funny.
You get to hear my deepest thoughts about NASCAR, among other things.
Okay, to Andrew's point, we are adding something where the league administrator can remove anybody. at their will. So the league admin, much like the league commissioner role in a fantasy football league, is getting more and more control of the experience. That also means you need to be able to hold your league admins accountable and be a little bit more careful about the leagues you join and make sure there's transparency. Mike, I believe, might be back and can confirm this question. But if I'm not mistaken, when the league admin changes any of the things that we talk about once this feature rolls out, there will be a message that goes out to the league chat
That is correct.
saying what has been changed. So there's full transparency amongst the league. You won't be caught off guard. You'll have the opportunity to yell at them if you don't agree. Hopefully, if your league administrator is good, they will be communicating with the league prior to making any of these decisions. But to go back to your original question, you can permanently ban a team that doesn't set a lineup. You can kick them out of the league. Let's see. Mark Zuckerberg wants a Lawrence Stroll simulator league where you can only sign Lance Stroll. That's pretty good. I don't know if we can do that, but that was pretty funny.
It'd be great to have like a reverse points league where you have to hit a salary floor every week and you want to go for the least amount of points possible.
I like that. Let's see. I think we're close to the end. Mark Zuckerberg, fund us. If money's not an issue, what do you guys think are the strongest captain at the moment? I'm assuming Helder Martins
Who's the
is
best?
referring
Probably
driver.
Piastri, then Norris, then Max, then Leclerc. If we're talking about who's the best driver.
Yeah. I'm not sure what they mean by captain, if it's
That's
talent driver or...
just how I'm going to interpret it.
If it's talent driver, Antonelli. If it's just driver, Piastri.
Very broad question from Willie. What is the best strategy for gaining value? I've tried to pick lower tier drivers hoping they will overperform and 2 blue chip drivers, but it always ends in a wash. I think that's... I actually think what he's proposing is a decent approach, right? Because I'd say it's not the highest risk, highest reward strategy, but it's fairly close to what I do. I mean, if you look at most of my lineups and most of my leagues, especially at the beginning of the season when you don't have tons and tons of money, I usually have 2 drivers on my lineup that are over 22 million, 20 million. And the rest of them, I'm being much more strategic about hunting for value. So I actually don't hate that strategy at all. I think that's a great one.
Yeah. Find who's underpriced and hope it works out. And the second part's the hard part this year.
Yeah.
100 million lineup. I can run through mine real quick.
Do it.
We've all got one. Piastri, Antonelli, talent driver, Alonso, Lawson, Hulkenberg, Mercedes, for a total of 99.8 million.
Do that one more time.
Piastri, Antonelli, Alonso, Lawson, Hulkenberg, Mercedes.
I only have one different one than you.
Yes.
Really?
No, I have 2.
Yeah.
I have Piastri, Russell, Sonoda, Alonso, Lawson, Alpine.
That's pretty different.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, I had Piastri, Hadjar, Alonso, Lawson, Hulkenberg, Mercedes. So I went Hadjar over Antonelli because I didn't want to go Mercedes, but
that is the interesting question this week. Antonelli or Hadjar?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Let's run these lineups, William.
Yeah, I've got Piastri, Russell, Antonelli, Gasly, Lance Stroll, and Alpine.
What? We're trying to help people.
Going with the stroller coaster. I love
Piastri,
it.
Russell, Antonelli, Gasly is going to give me all the points. Like Stroll and Alpine could get 0, and I probably still win with those top 4 drivers.
Antonelli's your talent driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a billion points right there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Someone said, what does it mean for talent driver? So talent people, we call it talent driver. So that's the star in the app for any driver under 18 million across all 3 games. So that driver, once you have a complete lineup, scores double points each weekend. Some players of the game call it the turbo driver or the bonus driver, or the star driver, but the official name is talent driver.
Uh, a question from the gentleman without a name or gal without a name. Why are users who do not pick their lineup still being rewarded? That's a great question. So, and going back to Michael's comments earlier about league customization coming, this is one thing you'll be able to turn off and on as a league administrator. But basically, I think most people in this chat that have played this game for some time would probably agree that if you forget your lineup for a week, it's pretty punitive, can ruin the whole season. And so we essentially added a minimum point score in lieu of something like an auto draft or draft protection, where you will get at least 650 points every event if you miss a lineup. And it's a number that we came up with because it's far below, what the average is, and puts you in a position where like it's still going to sting, but it's not going to necessarily make you want to leave and give up on the whole season. So that's what that's there for. If you hate it, good news. You'll be able to turn it off soon.
Well, that's coming later, but
Later.
yes, that'll be
You'll be
the
able
last.
to turn it off later.
Later, yes.
Let's see.
How do you tell what place someone needs to be in order to gain value? So, value changes are based not on race finish position, they're based on fantasy points. Whoever has the most fantasy points is likely to gain value. Whoever has the fewest fantasy points is likely to lose value. And those don't necessarily correspond to race results because you do have teammate points, you have improvement points, you have overtake points. So, all considerations as far as who's going to score the most points. Uh, it's been some of the talent drivers in recent weeks. Like it could be Albon, probably not this week, but like Albon has been one of the highest scorers. Signs has been one of the highest scorers, and that's where you see those 2 million value increases. It's all spelled out in the game rules, but that's the key thing.
Open your league, click scoring, click salaries. We show the math of how all salary changes happen. It's not something that we do willy nilly. There's a math formula for it, and we publish it. Check it out in the app.
Last question of the day, and then we got to end from Willie. When selecting a constructor, is it better to go cheap and maximize the drivers, go mid tier, or top tier and go for points? I'm still trying to increase value. William, I think you'd be a good person to answer this contextually with the fact that a sprint race is now 5 away.
Yeah. So we'll get to the sprint race point in a moment. If you're trying to increase value, then whether it's drivers or constructors, the key thing you should be looking for is whoever is underpriced. And at this point in the year, it's usually going to be somebody who's coming off a bad race. For example, Mercedes had a pretty bad Monaco. They're probably going to do better this week. So Mercedes drivers, Mercedes as a constructor, likely discount, even though Mercedes is a more expensive constructor. So they're also potentially in line for a higher value gain just because they had a big drop last week. Yeah, so that's the key thing if it's value you're looking for. If it's points we're looking for, as Ross alluded to, we have a sprint race 5 races from now. On the sprints, drivers score points for the sprint finish. Constructors do not score any kind of points with the sprint finish position, just qualifying in race like normal. So there are potentially a handful more points available on the driver's side compared to constructors. As far as whether we go cheap constructor, expensive driver, or mid, something like that, it depends on exactly who you can afford. If we're going to load up on drivers who are going to sweep the podium and we have to run Sauber, that's probably the best way to get you more points. You're not going to gain a lot of value that way, or probably any value that way. But if you want to go for points, that's how you do it. And points become more important as we get through the season. Those value spots are always going to exist, though, as long as somebody is at a discount. There's a spot to go for value.
And that is it. That brings us to the end of today. We're glad you're here. Thanks for continuing to join and hear us out. And we hope that we're helping. We hope that you're beating everyone in your league as a result of coming to these and hearing our thoughts. Enjoy the race weekend, and we will see everybody soon for the next show. Thanks so much for coming. Done.